Harry's Wife, Part 104.9. Let Archie and Lillibet entertain you. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The relationship between a child and a narcissist is one with much to unpack. And invariably, the question of suffering comes up. Suffer the Little Children was written by Stephen King. It was a short horror story where basically the children, or a child at least, causes a teacher to lose her sanity. And of course, it was Jesus who apparently said in Matthew 19 verse 14, "Suffer little children and forbid them not to come unto me," essentially saying that he was reaching out to a section of society that's often forgotten about and viewed as insignificant, albeit that children, through their weakness and inherent vulnerability, have much to teach adults. Of course, the human infant is a pathetic species indeed. It cannot feed itself or hydrate itself. It can't walk, birth, it can't even lift its own head. It can't regulate its temperature, and it can't soothe itself. It's wholly dependent upon another caregiver. And that dependency, of course, leads to particular outcomes when that caregiver is a narcissist. As I've explained in other videos about the relationship between narcissists and children, some narcissists abuse their children, others neglect them. Others utilize them as little mirrors, extensions of themselves, stealing, in effect, through character trait acquisition, the achievements of the child and pass them off as their own. The child is utilized for the purpose of triangulation with the intimate partner primary source. Children are used as pawns, stepping stones, to get to the former intimate partner primary source once that formal relationship has ended, and may well end up in a custody battle. For one such as Harry's wife, as a mid-range narcissist, she operates a facade of being a kind and caring mother. That she lauds the achievements of her children, that she holds herself out as being an involved and good mother, and that she will utilize those children subconsciously as extensions of herself. What they achieve is because of her. They will, of course, provide her with fuel through their reactions. She will use them to triangulate with regard to her control over Prince Harry. She believes that she loves the children, for her narcissism causes her to have such a belief, to cause her to act towards them in a particular way. However, leaving aside the question of whether the children exist or not, let us assume for a moment that they do, they're rarely seen. She spends a lot of time away from them, which is indicative, of course, of the fact that she actually has no emotional empathy for them, and they are subconsciously seen as objects, brought out when she needs them, put away when she doesn't need them, the shelving dynamic. She will portray herself as a kind and caring and involved mother because her narcissism dictates that that's the appropriate thing to do for the purpose of telling the world around her through the facade, so that people respond to it. For instance, we saw this in the recent Podcrap of Archetypes, where she spoke about the morning routine that she has and the involvement that she has with her children, talking about how she sits on the bed swiping through on an electronic device the pictures of her children, as she was discussing this with various guests. Although she does not see them this way, they are simply there as appliances to enable her to control them and others through them, to draw fuel from them and to use them to get fuel from others, to acquire their character traits and to use them as a residual benefit as part of the facade. And that is demonstrative because an article written by Lauren Welch that appears in The Express tells us, Harry's wife totally behind Archie and Lillibet getting careers in entertainment. During Harry's wife's interview with American magazine Variety, which was released last week, the Duchess gave some insight into the lives of the couple's two children. Speaking on the recent episode of Royal Us, Host Christina Garibaldi discussed how Harry's wife, in the surprise interview, claimed that she would be totally behind Archie and Lillibet if they wanted to follow in her footsteps when they grow older. Speaking to royal author Christopher Anderson, Ms. Garibaldi said, Harry's wife said, this was interesting, she said that if they wanted to get into the entertainment industry, then she would be totally behind them. She said it would be great. She said, good luck. There's so many people that will talk about what opened the door for my children. Ms. Garibaldi added, quoting Harry's wife, but it still takes talent and a lot of grit. We're creating a multi-dimensional, interesting, kind, creative people. That's who our kids are. Of course, that description of itself shows very clearly that she doesn't regard them with emotional empathy. To talk about your children as multi-dimensional, interesting, kind, creative people shows the objectification that she engages in. The article continues with Ms. Garibaldi adding that it's interesting that the 41-year-old would encourage and support them going into the entertainment industry. Mr. Anderson added, well, we'll have to see what happens. It's easy to say when they're this age. He pointed out that many actresses and actors actually say they never want my kid to go through what I've had to in the entertainment business. He made a point that if Harry's wife had remained in London and embraced her role as a royal, their children potentially wouldn't have had so many opportunities. The royal author claimed that the couple's two children will grow up Americanized and will be able to make their own choices. Actually, they won't. All of their decisions will be made by their mother because she will assert control over them. Doing so under the auspices, of course, of she knows what's best for them. The fact that she has no issue with them being involved in entertainment, and in a sense that she's already saying that she has no problem with it, is demonstrating that she sees them being involved in the entertainment industry, because vicariously she would be able to live through them, that she would see the status that she has achieved, which of course has been wholly as a consequence of the man that she married, as a method to open doors for them, and that she could then claim that she was the one that demonstrated that they were able to have successful careers in entertainment. The fact that she's deciding, in effect, that that's what they're going to do demonstrates her level of control over them, her lack of emotional empathy for them in terms of making a decision as to about what industry they're going to go into. Although she's not saying, oh, they're definitely going to be entertainers, her narcissism is more subtle than that. What she's effectively saying, though, is that by saying, oh, I don't have a problem with them doing that, what's really occurring is she's saying they're going to end up as entertainers. They're going to entertain people. Her narcissism will cause them to do that because she sees them as little mirrors of herself, that she, in effect, is an entertainer, and thus they will be so also. They are extensions of her, and their achievements will, of course, become her achievements. It demonstrates an absence of emotional empathy by professing that they're going to end up in rather cutthroat industry. And of course, who knows when they will do so? Might she start the merching of them at a fairly young age? As you noted, one of the commentators pointed out that it's unusual because most entertainers say, there's no way I would put my own child through what I had to embrace. Harry's wife, it's different, because she has no emotional empathy for them. Generally speaking, very few people want their children to go into entertainment because they know that it is a savage, cutthroat environment, and invariably, of course, is one that is festooned with my kind. The fact is, of course, that she is looking to live vicariously through them. And that's pretty common with the mid-range narcissist. Lesser narcissists don't tend to be as involved with their children. Indeed, they often lose touch with them, but don't concern themselves with staying in their lives. Mid-rangers, because of the facade management, are more likely to try and have some form of involvement, are more likely to fight for custody through the courts. Their narcissism sees the children as an important part of their world, both in terms of being able to triangulate other people with it, get access to the former intimate partner primary source whose fuel is extremely potent, and of course, as part of that all-important facade. Whichever it is, though, whether lesser, mid-range or greater, children are simply just objects to a narcissist, which Harry's wife's observations about putting them into entertainment demonstrates that. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.